sit in front of Jim. We're coming over there.
How are you?
Hey Jim, it's great to see
Good to
you.
see you.
You know,
Hey,
April
we get going here,
yeah. This is a prime time. But we had crappy weather 2 weeks ago.
Going really fast,
Alrighty, hello everyone, good afternoon, and welcome to y'all's private tour. We'll be going to the astronaut training facility, to the Apollo mission control room, and also to Rocket Park to see the Saturn V rocket. Now before we do, I do have to...
Okay. No, it's all coming from...
And up through Gemini 3, everything was launched and controlled out of Cape Canaveral, Florida. However, NASA was expanding rapidly to meet President Kennedy's challenge to land on the moon by the end of the 60s. With future expansion in mind, NASA decided to separate the launch pad from mission control. This new facility officially opened mission. Now coming up here on our right-hand side is the George W. Abbey Rocket Park. This area was dedicated to George Abbey back in 2021, who was a former center director of JSC and worked as the Apollo spacecraft assistant manager. The building you see here on the right houses a Saturn V rocket, which was the type of rocket used during the Apollo program to bring our astronauts to the moon. Now coming up ahead of us and to the right-hand side is Building 45, also known as the Project Engineering Building. Back during the 60s, this building led the design, construction, and coordinated activities with other NASA centers and contractors. Additionally, this building housed the Office of Operations for spaceflight programs, specifically the Gemini missions and the Apollo spacecraft. The location of these offices here represented the programming of the spaceflight. Now today, Building 45 houses one of JSC's on-site libraries filled with thousands of e-books, as well as many original AAPG documents like mission transcripts.
One thing that helped me was journaling. That really helped a lot. But it's
I know he would have loved it. He's an astrophysicist.
oh yeah. Yep. It's that was a tough thing to
Welcome you to the historic Mission Operations Control Room. I served as the flight director during the descent and landing of the first American astronauts on the moon. In 2019, this room, from the consoles with related flight documents and artifacts to the carpet, wallpaper, and mission medallions, was restored and preserved to the Apollo era. Even the viewing room seats you are sitting in are original, as are the telephone and communications booths and the simulation control room. The large screens at the front of the room display trajectory data, which we use to control the spacecraft. The clocks above the screens helped us to keep track of mission milestones, including how long the rocket engine fired, and loss of radio signal times as the spacecraft moved behind the moon. And the two viewing room televisions to your upper left and right displayed historical network news coverage as it was broadcast. You're about
control center. Nobody had ever done it before. And so Chris Kraft, who is running that part of the manned spacecraft system out of here, gave that task to Gene, because Gene had been a fighter pilot in the Air Force prior to, and had a good ops philosophy and a really good engineer. And so this layout you see was really the brainchild of Gene. So what do we need to know? Who needs to be in charge? Put him in the center. The first few sims that they had, they found out that engineers cannot speak pilot. Right? They speak in words that are way too long, and so they had to start shortening the words, and so they always had an astronaut, and that's Captain. And so that has held to this day, so that whoever we talked to from orbit was always one of us. And so they knew what we were saying, and oftentimes we knew exactly who they were because we trained with them all the time, so we could tell what they were saying, and oftentimes it was nonverbal. Right? So you could hear little tones or little changes in their voice, and there was as much information in that as you'd be getting from the words. And that was all Gene. He put all that together, and it worked famously well. And if you look at today's
Oh, absolutely. I was surprised to see it.
Actually started
Yep, there is one worker.
Couple guys over there and then the guys over there. Yeah, they're all working hard on something.
A handful of people down there.
All right, you guys, welcome into the
I would never
Space
get back
Vehicle
up.
Walk-Up Facility. I'm sure you've noticed we're a little bit backwards. So to start here on our very left-hand side, you'll see kind of this blue metal frame. That's the Active Response Gravity Offload System, or ARGOS. ARGOS is used to train astronauts in reduced gravity environments like the Moon, Mars, and microgravity. The system uses an overhead crane or robot to offset the weight of whatever or whoever is attached to it. Astronauts can test a wide variety of motions in the system, such as running, jumping, and walking in these reduced gravity environments. And experienced astronauts have even said that the training simulator comes very close to how it actually feels in space. NASA's even recently been working with medical professionals to try and deploy a simulator just like the ARGOS and rehabilitation efforts in patients.
And models, and AI is now being used as well, and that's actually an area that you'll hear about later when I give my presentation. But there are certain things you can't do. Almost anything that has a human in it, right, is very difficult to model because we're going to do something differently depending on who we are, at least at this point. So this allows us, even though this is a really big facility, as you can see, it's taken up about a third of the building. This used to be all mock-ups in support of the vehicles and the International Space Station that we would come in and do what we call medium fidelity training. Medium fidelity training is, in other words, everything that you see is what it looks like in the real vehicle. Now, a lot of times it didn't operate that way except for critical functions. So when we were doing suit checkout, for example, getting ready for an EVA, we would come over here and actually get in the suit, and then it had all the services, power, air, water, all the things we needed to support the suit, but nothing else worked in that volume like that. So we would have the medium fidelity training here, and then I mentioned the training over in mission control that was with the mission control team and us in the simulators. That's high fidelity, very high fidelity training. And then low fidelity training you'd have where you have specific pieces of equipment, or in this case in the ARGOS, you would be doing just your mobility training, for example. How do you move in 1/6 G in the suit? Which you would think isn't that hard, but you'd be surprised in terms of the impacts to it, because your center of gravity's off, it's different. When we were outside doing a spacewalk, we didn't have to worry about that because there was no acceleration due to gravity. And so we were in essentially free fall, so everything was weightless. And so all I had to worry about was not moving too fast at 750 pounds mass when we were outside.
30 something, 20, 30, 40 something.
Yeah, in fact, in Bruce Allen, we're still working, but more of the contract now.
750, that's what you weighed in the suit.
That's what I'll be in the suit.
Oh, totally different. You know, you need to talk to his Chandler. So he said the whole operation was done by us. He said it's insane. He got text messages from his daughter.
The only mode of transportation to and from the ISS after the decommissioning of the Space Shuttle program back in 2011, that is until the launch of the SpaceX rocket back in 2020, which started NASA's Commercial Crew Program. The idea behind the Commercial Crew Program is to allow private companies like SpaceX, Boeing, Sierra Nevada, and others to
That is a lot. It is huge, yeah. Did you see the Starliner back there that they had to come back in shame? That's the Boeing Starliner that.
Oh, that's this Boeing one that left them? Yeah, there's the sun. A little bitty thing. Yeah, still.
But was this one? Did this one ever fly? Because it's got it's square.